In this demo, we're going to bulk import accounts and members using Dive 365. In some scenarios, there's a need to import accounts and members into your Dive 365 organization rather than having people register themselves. An example of this would be when your organization is affiliated with a municipal sports facility that manages all registrations. In that case, your members would register with the facility instead of Dive 365. However, we still need members to be registered with the governing bodies of diving, so to facilitate that, we offer the ability to bulk import those members. So let's get started. Now I have Dive 365 open in my browser and I'm signed in as a global administrator in my organization, which is called D365 Club. Now to import accounts and members, I need to start by clicking on the Accounts option in the left-hand menu. Good. Now at the top of the screen, in the toolbar, there's a button called Import, and this button allows you to access the bulk import feature. And importantly, the importing feature has to be enabled by all of your governing bodies. That means your parent organization, their parent organization, and all the way up the chain. The import feature is very powerful and allows you to bypass certain checkout features, so it's important that everyone accepts and grants that feature. Anyway, let's go ahead and click on that button. Awesome. So now we get to the account import page, and this is a three-step wizard which guides you through the process. The first step is to select the file that contains the accounts and the members that you want to import. At the top of the page is a link that allows you to download a sample file so you can see how the CSV file needs to be structured and populated. And there's also an export link at the bottom of the page so you can export all of your current accounts and members. But for now, let's take a look at a demo CSV file that I have. I'll just open it up in Excel so that we can see it clearly. Good. Now on my screen, I have an example of the CSV file that needs to be used to import accounts and members. And each column contains information needed for the import. Now, several of the columns relate to the account owner. Now, this is usually the parent. And several relate to the member themselves, and this is usually the child. And if an account has many children, like in the case of Jordan Miller on lines 3 and 4, then the account owner information is simply repeated on every line. Now, at the end of each row is some important information. This is the list of your registration categories that each member is going to be associated with, and it's a comma-separated list of categories. And that means that you can associate a member with many categories, but they do have to be your club's categories. So notice that I have 3 members that are marked as Learn to Dive Athlete, 1 member that's marked as Competitive Athlete, and 1 member that's marked as both. Now, one critical rule here with imports is that it can only be done for athletes. You can't bulk import coaches, officials, or anyone other than an athlete. And this is to make sure that coaches and officials and others can't bypass important forms and agreements. Anyway, let's import this file. So I'm going to flip back over to Dive 365. And now the first thing that I have to do is choose which season we want to import these athletes into. And this is critical. The selection always defaults to the current season. So I'm going to choose next season. Great. Now we can add our file by clicking on the Upload CSV button. And that's going to show the file underneath that button. And now we can click on the Review button at the bottom of the screen. Excellent. So now once we click that Review button, the file that you give it is going to be validated. So if we've made any mistakes in the file, we're going to see all the errors. However, in our case, the file is good, so we're being shown the review screen. And this screen is showing us what we're going to import and how much it's going to cost. As we scroll through, we can see accounts and members, and we can see which members are new and which ones are being modified. We can also see the categories that are going to be applied to each member and which organization those categories come from, as well as how much it's going to cost for each member and each account. Now, if we scroll all the way down to the bottom, then we can see the total cost. We can see how many accounts are new or modified, how many members are new or modified, and how much money needs to be sent to each organization. Now notice that there's no money going to your organization. And that's because the import process assumes that you've already been paid by your athletes that you're importing. So even if your categories have prices for the season in question, the import will set the value to $0 on the screen. Now, once you've reviewed all the data on the screen and confirmed that it's accurate, you can click on the Pay button at the bottom of the screen. Now I'm going to go ahead and do that, and it's going to take us to the payment page. Now at this stage, we're asked to pay the amount that was shown on the previous screen. And once that amount is paid, all the accounts and the members will be imported as they were shown, and all the other organizations are going to be paid. So there you have it. In this demo, we walked through the import process for accounts and members in Dive 365.